Hello, my name is Alec Pearl. I apologize for the low quality of this video and the fact that it's not screencasted. I'm currently in Central Park in New York City as I am on a family vacation, so this is about the best that I could make happen at the moment. So, the lesson that I've chosen is teaching a song by rote. This is the alternate plan for early field experience. So, let's get started. So the philosophy behind this is that music should be accessible by anyone and everyone. Basically all this means is that anybody from any cultural background uses music in their everyday life. You can't walk down the street without hearing music, you can't watch TV, you can't watch a movie without hearing music, you hear it all the time. Music is absolutely a universal language, and not in the sense that is usually thought. Usually when you talk about music being a universal language, you're thinking, oh, anyone can read sheet music and play together. Well, that's not true because not every country uses the same type of music notation. So what's really meant when we say that music is a universal language is that anyone can hear a sad song and think, oh, that's sad. Or anyone can hear an upbeat or a heroic or, stoic song and think, oh, that's this emotion. Everyone can interpret an emotion within music, even if it's music that's not from their own culture. Students should always be able to feel successful in the classroom. There should be an environment where everyone is welcome and everyone is treated fairly and kindly. Everyone is capable of being a great musician. This means that no matter what your background is, if you are willing to immerse yourself, you can become a great musician, and if you're willing to do the work, you can become a great musician. The classroom must be a welcoming environment. If you hear safe space thrown around a lot, and some people say, oh, well, that's just a dumb, liberal thing, safe spaces are pointless. Well, no, they're not. In a classroom, everyone should feel like they can share their experiences and share their stories without being attacked by the class. Music education has to be mostly nonverbal to be as effective as possible in the first place. So a great conductor does more with his hands and facial expressions than he does with words. And when I say conductor, what I really mean is a music educator. If you go to professional orchestra rehearsal, that is an example of a music educator on the podium teaching, and just at a very high level in a different way. The music teacher is a non-verbal communicator. We talk about this with semiotics, in that there's constantly communication between the teacher and student in gesture and in facial expression. So, ideas for engagement with English language learners. So, the center of this is mostly make music, don't talk about it. So what this means is that, I think the ideal first class in a music setting is you walk in and you grab an instrument and you just follow. And then you eventually break off using nonverbal communication and have students do their own thing. So something that can be done in this fashion is like a drum circle. So everyone gets their own drum, you're in a circle, a person starts a steady beat, and then you have different groups of people playing different things. This is active communication that isn't verbal. Anyone can see a drum, know what it is, and figure out how to make a sound like that. It's so simple, but it's so effective for building a connection between a group. Again, non-verbal teaching by rote or through gesture. When I say rote, what I mean is, okay, repeat after me, blah, 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 and then have the class sing blah, 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 or something like that. Through gesture, it's the same thing I talked about with having a conductor. A conductor is always communicating through gestures and not through words. If you talk too much in a music education setting, you're not going to have a good time because your students are not going to be engaged. Another concept, solfege, which is assigning syllables to musical notes, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, is used in almost every country. The only differences are if you say D major would be D maggiore in Italian or something like that. So this is how you can engage English language learners, is by not making it an academic pursuit, making it a musical pursuit. So here's a lesson plan for learning a song by rote. So for example, lesson time is about 60 minutes. Prior knowledge, students know about solfege and Kodai hand symbols. Kodai hand symbols are, I can't think of the word, but they're hand symbols that represent solfege syllables. Materials, the only thing that we need are the ELL students' journals, which they have it with them through the entire class period. Procedure, student will enter class and get into their small groups, which they've already been in, and that'll take about 5 minutes to talk about what's going to happen for the class period. Groups are going to discuss their favorite songs and share with the class. So the idea behind this is that students of different cultural backgrounds can talk about songs that they love, hopefully from their culture and not just from American culture, but the eventual idea is for them to compare and contrast songs from their cultures and songs that are popular in America. And then they're going to share with the class. And so what this means is that you'll just have maybe one person act as a speaker for each group and say, hey, this is what we talked about, blah, 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 blah. And then they're going to be back in their groups and they're going to talk about the role of music within their culture and share about that. So what I mean by this is like, oh, so in America, it's really common to do music as a processional and a recessional in a graduation ceremony, pomp and circumstance. Everyone knows pomp and circumstance. What would be an example of something like that in Spain or Italy or Ghana or something like that? So the idea is that they would talk about that for about 10 minutes and then share with the class. After that, we go back in the traditional music classroom, split the students into 4 voice parts. It doesn't actually matter if they're soprano, tenor, or soprano, alto, tenor, bass, because they can just sing in different octaves for this particular song. And then teach the song Take Time in Life with solfege, and this would be about 30 minutes. Afterwards, the students would get back into their groups and write reflections in their journals, and the kind of thing that we'd be looking for is like, were you successful in using solfege and Kodai hands to learn? Were there any lyrics that you had a hard time understanding or saying? And we'll get more into that in a second. So ELL considerations. ELL students of all 4 levels should be able to follow along and do solfege as we've already learned this as a class. So what this means is that you don't need to be fluent in English to be able to sing in solfege and you do Kodai hands because it's all kinesthetic. ELL students will have their journals and are expected to make note of words or phrases that they struggle with within the song. So as background information on this song, it's a traditional song, and the way that you teach it is by having the 4 voice parts sing the harmony, and then once the students know the background of the song, the teacher would start singing the lyrics, and then the students would gradually pick up on the lyrics. And the great thing is that it's I was passing by, my mother called to me, and she said to me, blah, blah, blah. And each time you go through, you say, my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, my son, my daughter, whatever, and you get this vocabulary going, and this would correlate really well with if you were learning about family vocabulary. So the content objective is the same for all 4 levels of learners. It's just learning, take time in life as a class. The cultural objectives, students will learn about music from other cultures and gain a deeper understanding of music within different cultures. So this is where the small group work comes in at the beginning of the class. Linguistic objectives. So PP and SP, students will identify words that they're struggling with and answer questions about songs that they're familiar with. SEIF, students will compare and contrast songs from their own culture with the song that we learn by rote. And for home fun, ELL students will talk to their parents about music from their childhood. So the idea is that they could go home, talk to their parents, be like, hey, this is what we did in class today, and have a discussion with them about music that they remember from their childhood, because maybe their parents lived in whichever their home country was for 15, 20 years before moving to America or wherever they are, and could come back and share and journal about it. So for assessment, it would be based on the instructor roving around the room during instruction, as well as small group assessment. So say like, hey, Susie, Brian, and John Doe, could you sing for me by yourself? And then assess, like, okay, they're doing this right, they're doing the lyrics right, or whatever. And while the students are in their groups, you would say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 3, this person's doing this well, this person's doing this well, this person's doing this well, so and so. And then at the end of the group work time, they would fill out a short survey on the members of the group to say like, oh, this person was participating, this person wasn't participating, so that the teacher knows if he missed anything. So strategies used for this: small groups. So small groups are extremely effective in learner-centered pedagogy, as they allow for students to make their own connections and guide their own learning, and I think that's very important. We're using peer review and assessment, so even if students aren't extremely fluent with English, this will be a rubric that they're familiar with, that the class will have come up with as a group before. There's going to be individual attention because this teacher will be roving around the room the entire time. And as far as a general strategy, we're using music in a melodic sense and a lyrical sense. So instead of throwing a page of sheet music in front of the students and say, okay, read the music, and not actually letting them talk or just make music, you're teaching by rote. So you're saying, okay guys, you're gonna sing ba ba bum bum, or another group saying da 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 da, and having them copy and repeat after you. And then in a lyrical sense, because everyone's gonna learn that background, and even if they don't feel comfortable singing the lyrics, they're gonna feel comfortable singing that background music, and can eventually pick up on the lyrics and the meaning of the words and realize, oh, okay, it's changing for this. These are different family members. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening, and that's it. Bye-bye.